We never miss the flowers.
Good morning. Welcome to the Roundtable and 2-hour panel discussion for this Monday. It's the 19th of June, 13 minutes past the hour of 9 o'clock, and I hope you've had a lovely weekend. I hope dads had a lovely weekend. If you are a father or have an affiliation or have that sort of relationship with someone and you celebrated Father's Day, I hope that you had a lovely, lovely Father's Day yesterday. Weather wasn't horrible. Saturday sucked. Just
summary of the weekend.
poured and poured. Well, we have a great panel. We'll get to it, and we also welcome you to be a part of the discussion. It's I think a pretty good show today. So we'll get.
Usually you say great.
Yeah. Well,
we have a great
no.
show for you. What is this?
I don't know. Well, two things. See, now I'm just telling tales out of school. I picked the topics based on another configuration of panelists.
I see.
Yes.
Which I pick the topics based on on the configuration of panelists. So then we had some horse trading going on, and then that's how you got your gig. And then, but I think it'll be fine. It'll be good. You can talk about anything.
Yeah, I can. That's why I'm wondering why you're saying it's going to be okay, I think.
Hello, Libby.
Look who's here.
Libby Post is with us. She's going to sit over there where Alan used to sit. And
Joe's worried about whether it'll be a good show or not.
No, I'm not worried about it being a good show. I know it's going to be a good show. And my God, hasn't it started off great? Panel at WAMC.org. If you'd like to join us, let me introduce the panel to you, and we'll just show you how damn good it's going to be. Political consultant and lobbyist Libby Post just walked in the door. Good morning, Libby. How are you?
I'm good. A little tired. There's nothing better as an alarm clock than the sound of a dog about to throw up.
Oh. Yeah. About what time was that?
4 o'clock.
Yeah.
So I've been up since then.
Not to gross anyone out, but I have a dog that
barks in your ear.
Well, right, yes, but it also has this there's a constriction in the windpipe, and so it will make that noise.
Yeah.
But then it's about 70-30.
Whether
anything will come out.
producers.
And only about 25-30% of the time anything will come, but you don't know, so you feel like but you have to take it just seriously enough.
Yeah, you do, because you know what?
That's right, because we're the cleaning crew.
That's right. We certainly are.
Well, I'm glad you're here. I'm glad everything, and hopefully, was it Shayna? Was it?
Yeah, it's Shayna.
Okay.
It's just.
Well, labs eat anything.
Well,
and
that's
licking...
exactly it. I mean, she's a golden, but that's exactly it. Yeah. She goes out, looks for rabbit poop, deer poop.
Right.
They eat anything.
They eat anything.
And it's like, come on.
Yeah, and it's gross. And,
it is.
And then
it's very gross, and then they want to lick you. On your face.
It's just getting worse and worse.
Right. And then they're like, oh, hi, I want to be your new best friend.
Let me lay in your bed.
Right.
Let me
that
cuddle you.
happens anyway. So
I just want to think of the listener who just turned on the fire and just heard, and then they want to lick you.
Right. On your face, your dog. Let's be clear.
Jennifer Burns is with us, UAlbany Lecturer in Africana Studies. Good morning, Jennifer. How are you?
Good morning, everyone. Happy to be here. I'm great.
Wonderful to have you on the program. We also welcome investigative journalist and adjunct professor Rosemary Armao. Good morning, Rosemary. How are you?
Good. Good morning.
Good morning. Great to have you all here. All right, let's get to what's going on. So I thought this was an interesting. Let's talk about Bill Barr for a second, because we talked a little bit about Bill Barr last week, and now he was on the Sunday shows yesterday, and Face the Nation was the program where he was making news. William Barr, who served as Attorney General under President Trump, excoriated his former boss on Sunday for, quote, reckless conduct that led to Mr. Trump's indictment on charges of mishandling classified documents, saying that the case was, quote, entirely of his own making. Mr. Barr in an interview with CBS News' Face the Nation, walked through the severity of the charges against Mr. Trump. He described the former president's actions laid out in a 49-page indictment as harmful, not only to the country, but also to the Republican Party and the conservative movement that Trump leads. Mr. Barr also attacked Mr. Trump's character in extraordinary language, describing him as a consummate narcissist and a fundamentally flawed person. With friends like these, who would always put his own ego ahead of everything else. He added that he believed Donald Trump had lied to the Justice Department about the classified documents in his possessions. Quote, Mr. Barr said, "He's like a defiant 9-year-old kid who's always pushing the glass towards the edge of the table, defying his parents from stopping him from doing it. Our country can't be a therapy session for a troubled man like this." Mark Esper, who was a defense secretary in the Trump administration, also said on Sunday that the former president had committed an illegal act and that his actions had put U.S. national security at risk. That's some strong language.
Yeah, too bad he didn't say it when he was in the administration.
What would have changed?
What would have changed? I think the story would have been while he was president, right? He's acting like a 9-year-old. Nobody would say that publicly from the inside. Only those of us on the outside would say it. But if Bill Barr had actually found his backbone before he left his position, I don't think... I think perhaps the margin of Biden's victory would have been a little greater. And perhaps...
Barr didn't even have to do that, Libby. All he had to do was stand back and let the Mueller report stand on its own rather than to mischaracterize it.
This is true.
And
but
to protect him from an obstruction of justice charge that surely would have come out of it had it been interpreted by
all
Congress.
well and good. But you know what?
What happened to Bill Barr?
Wait. No. That's not the issue. The issue is, what will people hear? People will hear and understand he's acting like a 9-year-old. They're going to glaze over when they start talking about the Mueller report. That's part of the problem here.
Barr
is
still
that
wants...
we those of us who think on a regular basis think way too complicated for the majority of people to grasp and get an emotional attachment. People understand a petulant 9-year-old, right, Jennifer?
Yes, they do. They do.
People like the way that Trump behaves. They like that he
Some
upsets too many for comfort, like the way he upsets the libs, and that would not have done it. Barr's real sin, and I want to know what happened to him. Why did he let him get away with the Mueller report, which shows that he had... If he didn't collaborate, he actually hid. He was certainly happy about Russian interference. Then Barr was on duty when he made the calls that resulted in the first impeachment. Barr could have done something about that, ruled about the illegal, or spoken out about it. What happened? Was it really January 6th? That's what finally pulled him to attention? And if so, why only Bill Barr? Why not the rest of Trump's minions? Why are they still...
Because Bill Barr wants a political future.
He's had it.
And also got appointed after Jeff Sessions got fired, right? So what was so he was the second, he was the second pick, or was he the third? He was the second, right? After Jeff Sessions?
Second, yes.
And I think the other thing, yes, he wants some kind of political future. At the same time, what's interesting to me about Bill Barr is he's not saying anything new. It's just the fact that it's him who's saying it. And I wonder if he has gotten some kind of word that people are looking at him for some misdeeds somewhere. And now that there's been an indictment against Trump for the documents case, he's wanting to distance himself as far as possible to protect himself from whatever he may be
I just find it all really unconvincing because he started this way before there was a documents case. He started it. He left the administration. He began bad-mouthing, less than now, but bad-mouthing it before he wrote his book, and that's been a while. Something really changed him. What?
To your point, may I jump in? Your point about the book, I think, is interesting because it was March 20. 2022 that the book came out.
Yep.
And in the book, he talks about all of the great things that Trump has done for conservatism,
Yep.
all the great things that he has done for the Republican Party, how he is moving the country in the right direction. And then when he starts to talk in the book about how Trump basically gobbled him up and spit him out like he did everybody else that worked in the administration, he said that, he would have been better suited by taking his advice. But, and here's the thing where I want to get to what happened, but then said he would still vote for him.
Yeah, exactly. And so I think Barr is interesting because of the issue of loyalty to Trump. We've long talked about what is it about him that makes people still loyal in the face of felonies, in the face of disgusting behavior exposed. People continue to plot their future based on loyalty to Trump. Look at Kevin McCarthy. Yet Barr decided he made a different decision. I find that really interesting, and I don't think that saying, he wants a political future explains it.
No, I think he agrees with Trump's basic political shtick. He's
Which
a
is
racist.
what, Libby?
He's homophobic. He hates women. He's afraid that white men are no longer going to be in the majority in this country. And so all of that dog whistle is what Barr believes in. And so that's why these people are still loyal to him. It's because he speaks to them in language that they understand and saying things that they agree with.
Well, let's also consider that Bill Barr, who, if he wasn't making himself relevant right now?
That's for sure.
Right? Because nobody was talking about Bill Barr anymore. Nobody was paying attention to him until now he's gotten back out there to talk about this. So he's definitely pining for something else. It's a question of what does he see for his future that he's pining for to make himself relevant again now, to distance himself from Trump in this way. Well,
and it seems like we're pining for it as well, because we're looking for that one person who's on the Republican side who was in the room with Trump during all of this and saying, yeah, this is awful. Really, he did everything that they said he did, and it's really bad.
Well, we've come pretty close. There's Barr, there's Pence, there's Mark Meadows' assistant, what was her name? The woman who testified before January 6th. We've heard
Cassidy.
it. Yeah, Cassidy, right. And people are still, half the people in the country, 75 million, who still support Trump strongly. It makes no difference whatever. There's no one voice, there's no one act that he can commit that will just turn off everybody. That's a pipe dream, Democratic pipe dream.
So we asked this question a lot of then what moves the needle, and when you see this kind of I guess another way of asking this question is how much support does Bill Barr have? But when you see Barr come out, and does he have the gravitas to bring anybody with him to believe that maybe it is not in the GOP's best interest to put this man front and center as the candidate for president of the United States?
No. I look at Jeff Sessions, also humiliated, tortured by Trump in office. That was like, I hate the man, I hate his policies, and yet it was awful to watch what he did to him, what Trump did to him. And yet he tries to go back to Alabama, where he had an ironclad control over the electorate, and he couldn't get himself elected to office again. Well, Trump ruined him, and he's going to ruin everybody. Pence is poisoned.
Which is fine.
Barr is going to be, they all deserve it. Good for them. But I like I say, I'm interested in this because I'm fascinated by what is the nature of Trump's hold over people, and how did Barr escape it? What did Trump do that he finally said, okay, enough, that's it, I'm going to... Kelly is the same way, by the way, his former chief of staff.
Right. But also, Miss Lindsay, what is it that he has on Lindsey Graham? I'm sorry, Joe,
I think Lindsay is different. I think Lindsay is what you were talking about. He wants to be relevant. He's a whore. He'll just go with whatever person. Whatever person gives him status, he is.
But I wonder
loyal
what
to.
the National Enquirer has on Lindsey Graham that Trump has his finger on.
Libby.
Oh, I know, but I don't know if they actually have it. But it's the biggest secret in D.C.
Just move your mic more into it. Well, and then just put it like that.
Okay, yeah, right. Okay, great. The biggest what?
We'll have it fitting during the break.
Okay, the biggest secret in D.C. is that he's a gay man, and
allegedly.
Well, and and so, that's the biggest secret. And I think that he is afraid of that coming out, so to speak, in his home state. And it just doesn't make sense because he was so vehemently anti-Trump during the 2016 campaign. Mm-hmm. And then all of a sudden,
he's not the only one. Rubio, Cruz.
Yeah. Well, you got to wonder what they have on all of them.
Yeah.
Except Chris Christie. Chris Christie doesn't care. He's going after him.
So where does Bill? Again, I guess I'm interested in. Can Bill Barr change anyone's opinion? Is Bill Barr preaching to the choir here? But no one else is going to come on and say, yeah, you're right. This is entirely of his own making, and he should be taken down for it.
I don't think it'll move the needle a whit.
I don't either. I think, what Rosemary was saying earlier about we want this one event or this one thing that's going to take Trump down. And I don't think that's the way it'll work, right? Like Bill Barr is just one person who's saying something, but then you add in Mark Esper. Then you add in, I always want to say Michael Bolton, but that's not him.
Richard Bolton?
No.
Who I'm talking about?
Bolton.
Yes.
John Bolton.
John Bolton,
right.
Thank you. Right. He
Michael
too
Bolton.
is weighing in.
Yeah,
I know. I'm sorry. It's not the right name. But
no
you
him.
add him in.
Although they weirdly have the same resume. Yeah.
But there's like this kind of small but growing group that's sort of chipping away at some of the lies, right? So it's not like one person's going to come in and expose all of these things. And frankly, even if Melania came out with all kinds of stuff, it wouldn't change people's love
Not
for
some
Trump.
people, no.
But the chipping away in different circles, I think, it spreads a little bit more in a way where it muddies it up for him to be the number one of everything. And it also allows other people some room to start to speak more forthright and to challenge Trump a little bit more. Now, will they do it? That's a different question. But the opening happens as more and more people start to do it, especially these guys who were close to him.
We're going to take a break. When we come back, we'll continue our discussion. Libby Post, Jennifer Burns, and Rosemary Armao will be back after news from the BBC. Having a lovely conversation about book banning with Libby. Very fun. Just listening to the music of Dermot Kennedy. He's going to be at SPAC tonight in promotion of his Sonder album, which is quite great. And you can find out more by going to spac.org. Spac.org. Okay, let's go to letters. I will not listen to anything that bloated tick on the body politic Bill Barr has to say.
Okay.
Writes John. Until he publicly admits that he lied about what's in the Mueller report in order to protect Trump. Don't care what justification he gives as long as he owns up to it publicly and repeatedly.
Actually, that would be effective if he's still saying, "Oh, Trump has been the subject of witch hunts in the past. Yeah. This is different." If he did do what this listener is saying and said, "I did protect him. I was told to do it, or I did it on my own," whatever the case is, that would make a difference. That would make you would make liberals appreciate what he's saying more. I don't think it would change conservatives. Interesting.
I love Rosemary, but would never say I hate him, but rather than I hate the way he acts.
I immediately said I hated his politics because I know there's always people like you who say that, but I just really don't see I hate Trump. I hate what he's done. I hate how he's changed the country, how he's changed the discourse. I hate his politics. I hate his racism and misogyny. Why can I not say I hate him? I do.
Yeah, okay.
And I have similar feelings for the people who enable and approve of him. So there you go. I'll say what you want so you don't yell at me, but I don't see the problem with it.
Jory writes, you can analyze the facts and what people say as long as you wish, but it doesn't matter because half the people in this country do not hear any of that and are not exposed to any of that because they listen to Fox News and all the conservative spinoffs from there. Then we go to Grace. Bill Barr buried the Mueller report. He buried E. Jean Carroll's lawsuit. He's somehow involved in the Jeffrey Epstein scandal, and he's just worried about his own legacy now. And, pardon the pun, the bar is really low. Indeed. All right. So let's move on to a somewhat related story. Not really, but while all of this goes on as Donald Trump's campaign is getting underway, and both Democrats and Republicans are dealing with how this will impact the campaign and what impact, if any, the indictment will have on the campaign and candidates who are the many Republican candidates are entering, and if it will help them or hurt them and so forth. Meanwhile, what does Joe Biden do? Well, he is working, and there's an article in the New York Times today about all this talk of federal indictments, classified documents, and anything related to the president's predecessor are out. Bridge repair, junk fees, and the prescription drug prices issue are in. As President Biden ramps up his re-election campaign, his team is focused not on the various investigations into former President Donald Trump, but rather on spotlighting the ways, however mundane, his administration can assist Americans in their daily lives. Such was the case when Mr. Biden visited Philadelphia, where a fiery crash last weekend caused part of a highway used by area's commuters to collapse, and reviewed the recycled glass product that he said was needed to ensure the highway's speedy repair. Mr. Biden then had one of his more public-facing campaign rallies to celebrate the endorsements of more than a dozen unions. "I'm proud to be the most pro-union president in American history," Mr. Biden told the crowd inside the Philadelphia Convention Center. "But what I'm really proud of is being reelected the most pro-union president in American history." How good are things going?
You know, I understand his approach, which is show people I can govern, and don't mention Trump. Why should he mention Trump? Trump's getting in his own way as far as missteps and legal problems. But it isn't working. Polls show, for whatever they're worth, that people do not recognize that he's done anything. They think he's had a really do-nothing presidency, which is completely untrue. And he goes to talk about bridges. He goes to talk about union activity that's resulted in better things for the middle class. And all the right wing is seeing is every time he stutters on a word, every time he trips over a sandbag, and you look at that right wing stuff, and they have him as a doddering idiot. And I don't know how he addresses the age thing, but that's all they are not paying attention to his words, but to his actions. If he has rallies, they'll pull those apart. If he doesn't have them, they'll say, "Oh, see, he's so senile that his handlers are holding him back." I think the messaging is, it's a good plan, but it is not working, and they need something else. They need to forcefully say, this is a man who has done amazing things that have changed your life.
And that will happen as we get
in
closer.
time, Libby?
Yes. We've got 18 months, 19 months.
But policies that he's changed.
In which he'll be 19 months older.
Yeah, well, that's true. But the thing is this. Look, it's not that he's got to change the minds of the Trump voters, because that's not going to happen.
Right.
The Democrats, while some of them don't want him to run, if he's the nominee, they will get behind him. They're not going to go to Marianne Williamson. It's the middle. It's the undecideds. It's the independents that he has to go after, and that's what they'll do.
As usual, I have to fight Libby's supreme optimism here because
I know.
Two
but
things.
The thing is, when we win, then we can have
I'll say fine. I'm so glad I was wrong. However, in the meantime, the policies that will change people's lives that he is responsible for will not really begin to show effect in 18 months. Maybe they'll just be starting by then. They'll take 2 years. In 2 years and 4 years, people are going to say, "Wow, that was pretty good what he did." But will it affect the election? We don't know. And second, this is not just Marianne Williamson. This is an election likely to have third-party candidates who will hurt Biden, not Trump. And I talk about Robert Kennedy and the Lieberman No Labels Party. Those are dangers.
So the other problem, it seems to me, is that for people who will readily admit that the only person they're going to vote for is Joe Biden, I mean, there's no
no choice.
question. There's no question. There's no choice. For those people, even them, when they watch President Biden, and at the end of his speech, he says, "God save the Queen."
I know. What
You're
the
like,
hell?
I was confused by that.
Like what? Well, and it just gives you that
Or
moment.
salutes looking in the crowd for the dead congresswoman.
Yeah.
Or
It's those moments which you and I don't, please,
They're cringeworthy.
hold your letters, but I mean I'm not saying they are that they should be damaging, but I'm just saying that it plays right into the narrative that is being written over and over and over and over again by the Republican
And
Party.
you talked earlier about how people need a simple narrative. It's a whole lot simpler to understand the man's old and senile than, look at, he is thinking long range on how to show that government is really important and will help people. What narrative wins?
No, the narrative is government is working for you. That's the narrative.
Right.
He's working for you.
That's a lot harder to understand than this is an old man, vote him out.
Except that inflation is down. People understand that. Jobs are up. People understand that.
Do they, Libby?
But not
Do
everybody
they?
is feeling that.
No, I get
Yeah.
that.
Right,
I
and so-
understand that. Not everybody is gonna feel that. But
Polls
It
uniformly
is what it
right
is.
now, again, for what they're worth, show that people think the economy is in the dumpster and going downhill. And yet, the actual facts, what we're hearing from economists and government officials, that things are pretty good. So he is not winning. His idea is that I'll show people, but he's showing and no one's seeing.
I mean, I think the other thing with Joe Biden is that he really doesn't have a lot of charisma. I know
Not like
older
Trump.
generation people think he does, right? And even for me, I'm like, all right, he's pretty cool. But then sort of for an older man, right? For the younger generation, he doesn't have that same kind of charisma and he doesn't speak the same kind of language as they do about unions and about the job force in the future for them. The language is different and he kind of just sounds outdated and stodgy. And though I think many young voters, especially those that are want some legislation on guns, they see what Joe Biden is doing in a good way because he's kind of the only alternative.
I don't know. Maybe he needs it. Maybe Biden needs lessons from Bernie, who's another old stodgy, crickety old guy, and it fired up young people. So I don't know.
He has an energy, though, that is
Yeah.
very different, right? When he walks, when he talks, and he brings people in, he gets animated in a certain way, and they're drawn to that. Joe Biden is stiff. He's...
Well, I understand that Trump has charisma and he has personality,
Yep.
and he's fascinating,
funny.
and he's funny, and he's fascinating to watch. But he also is a man in his late 70s.
one cheeseburger away, one Big Mac away.
I mean, he's having.
He's not in shape the way Biden is.
And
you're right.
he has his own flubs, his own issues, but that doesn't really seem to matter as much because I think, and we talk about this so often on this program about messaging, but I think obviously the Republicans are a lot better at
Absolutely.
at making it stick as to what is wrong with the guy.
Yeah. I mean, look at crime. That was the only thing you heard about during the midterms. Oh, blah, blah, blah. Everybody's dying in cities run by Democrats. It stuck. It was a narrative that stuck. Haven't heard a word since, there's never been any really factual information about it.
But it also didn't really work, right?
They came
Well, it
awfully
almost
close.
worked in New
Yeah,
York.
Almost worked.
Yeah.
I mean, the Republicans flipped the House on that
Yep.
in New York.
True.
And it got a little too close in the gubernatorial election. And they flipped the House because of the gubernatorial election,
Right.
because on Long Island they didn't realize, or whatever, they miscalculated Zeldin's coattails. So
All right, let's take a break. When we come back, we'll continue our conversation. We welcome your letters. We have a few, and we welcome yours. Panel at WAMC.org. Libby Post, Jennifer Burns, and Rosemary Armao make up the panel this morning. You're right. Today is a good show. We'll be right back after this. Good morning. Welcome back to the Roundtable and to our panel discussion this morning. Libby Post, Jennifer Burns, and Rosemary Armao making up the group. Rosemary Armao is how we pronounce it in the States. Good morning,
Which
all.
state?
How are you? Let's see. Let's go to some letters. Chris writes, get some honest panelists, will ya? Or some that see beyond the BS. The Dems have become the party of arrogance and authoritarianism. We will tell everyone what to think. Try having RFK on. That would give you a little credibility. I doubt you could handle the truth.
Oh, I guess the
Handle
truth
the
is
truth.
that vaccines kill people.
Quoting the New York Times and Washington Post is just the same old propaganda. I know many that find NPR hard to listen to anymore. Oh, please, Biden is a corrupt minion. Look at the polls. RFK is surging, but you in the corporate media...
With 20%.
Okay.
Yeah.
If that.
By the way, not corporate media, but okay. Will not give him any attention because you are afraid.
Yeah, we are afraid, and he's getting lots of attention. All Kennedys get attention, so basically go bite me.
And his whole family is saying, don't vote for him.
Yeah. They said that about Paul Gosar, and we didn't listen.
Yeah, right. I mean, let's be honest about RFK Jr. He's an anti-vaxxer. That's his only platform, and which means death to children.
Well, he's also
around
an
the world.
environmentalist. If he were that,
don't really
I'd be
care
saying
about
something
that.
different. But when he says that Fauci is equivalent to Hitler and the Holocaust, okay, whack job.
Right. I mean, it's he can be as environmentally whatever he wants, but this is about public health. Vaccinations work, and he is rumor mongering and putting out that the lies that were out during COVID, and it's simply not true. Mr. Ryder wouldn't be healthy in the general sense of being healthy if he weren't vaccinated as a child.
He does have a cool wife, though.
Cheryl Hines?
Yeah, but one has to wonder where she is in all of this.
Well, there's been a lot, actually, more written about her than about him because she disagrees with him, but she loves him and supports him.
Yeah.
God, Hillary got crucified for that.
Right.
But the 20%, how much of that is name recognition?
A whole bunch of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I mean,
It's
that's the
Kennedy.
thing. It's
Kennedy.
Kennedy. Yeah.
Right.
Bannon has proposed that he be a vice presidential candidate to Trump, which says everything I need to know about the guy.
Yeah, right.
Ed writes, if Trump is defeated, it will be by Trump, not Biden. The Dems are totally playing with fire by running Old Man Joe yet again. The Dems need a revolution within the party to nominate a younger, viable candidate. They exist. See, for example, the governor of Michigan and California. That would be Gretchen Whitmer and Gavin Newsom. Yeah. So
they exist in the Republican Party, too, and one wonders why that party is sticking with not only an old man, but an old racist fascist man.
Yeah, but look how many people are in
twice
the field.
indicted.
I mean, Nikki Haley's young, right? There's a
Yes,
lot of
Scott is young.
younger Republicans in the field right now. There's a lot of people running. We'll see who ends up being the nominee.
Let's go to Peter. Politics and to some degree the government itself have become TV shows. I think that's why Trump was elected. He's a TV character. It's like wanting Dirty Harry on your police force. Biden is an effective
Good line.
Biden is an effective professional who has good values and gets results, but he's bad TV and getting worse. That scares me. Gavin Newsom, much, much better TV. Joel says Rosemary is right. The positive messaging about Biden is failing. The message should be 2 words: traitor Trump. Well, it's certainly. I mean, that's. I mean, a lot of that has been
out
said.
there. Biden doesn't have to say it. I think I think that part of his strategy that we don't mention Trump by name if we can avoid it. We don't mention the indictments. We don't mention the. He doesn't have to. It's all over the front pages of the airwaves.
And other people will do it for him.
Yeah.
That part of the strategy is spot on.
Yeah, I agree with that part.
We get this letter from Denise, and it's, for the record, third in the row, which talks about Gavin Newsom. But Denise says, did you all see the interview with Gavin Newsom and Sean Hannity? He sure has spunk, facts, and pizzazz. Will he come in and save the day? Well, even if he did, I mean, the how much is the die cast?
Boy, I don't know. I like Gavin Newsom a lot. I like Pete Buttigieg a lot, too. I like Gretchen. I like all of them. The governor of Michigan. I like Amy Klobuchar. But the truth is, I don't think any of them are competition for Trump.
They're also not getting, I mean, unlike the Republican race, which is chock full of
No one's
actually
getting
announced
in.
no one's
No
getting
one's- and no one is going to get in.
That's right.
I mean, I find it very difficult to believe that a Gavin Newsom is going to put his entire political career
No, he's not. He's not.
Yeah. So then what do you do? All right, let's go to...
There's a big problem in the Democratic Party because the president has declared you want to show unity. If he weren't to declare, the number one candidate would probably be Kamala Harris, who is extremely weak right now for reasons we've gone into before in this show. So it would take a huge act of apathy, I guess, to announce as if you're any other Democrat.
Democrat ads need to run Trump's statement that he hires only the best people, followed by all the people he hired that were either charged with crimes and or like Barr have turned around and said bad things about Trump, after which Trump then says how these best people he hired are now really the worst people he ever knew. There are so many such people, it would take a series of ads.
Okay, so can I just say something?
Yes.
Everybody wants everything done now. Okay, next week is primary day, right? We've been gearing up the last 2 weeks. You do all your voter ID, you go door to door, you do all of the grassroots stuff. But in terms of messaging and getting it in front of people aren't paying attention by and large until maybe the Saturday before the primary.
Right.
And so we've been gearing up for the last 2 weeks with mail and social media and all the rest of that stuff so that you don't peak too early, right? That's the biggest mistake in campaigns is peaking before the election. You want to peak on election day. And now with early voting, you'd like it to build up. But the fact of the matter is everybody wants them to be doing this stuff now, and it's not the time to do it. What their strategy of only talking about what Biden is doing and letting surrogates deal with Trump is spot on, because Biden needs to show that he knows what he's doing and that he's accomplishing stuff and making inroads for the people. And so everybody just needs to calm down. I know everybody wants to just pummel this guy and wants the media to do it and wants to see it on TV, but from a
I want
campaign point of
prosecutors
view,
to do it.
Yeah,
fast.
But from a campaign point of view, it's too early.
But does it work? I mean, I just don't know. We've been through this. How much more can you say about the guy that hasn't been said every day? I mean, the thing about Trump is that most of his most atrocious things he brings up himself day in day out on his Truth Social. So I just don't know if you make the connection and say, oh well, here are all the things that he said and here are all the things that are not true. Well, it's sort of the Caitlin Collins approach where, okay, you're right, but everyone in that room is still booing her and saying yay, yay, yay for him.
Yeah, look, you're going to have those people doing that. He's going to have his 30 to 35% regardless. And Biden will have his 30 to 35%. It's the middle that needs to be talked to and swayed. And the middle is disgusted by what's going on.
Rosemary, your description of your hate for Trump was perfect. Those of us who are capable of thought, which includes the ability to analyze the subtleties of human behavior, rarely use the word hate. However, in this case, I wholeheartedly agree with you. I can say I feel the same way about Trump and all of the hateful things he has done to destroy our democracy and degrade our society. That from Tom.
Yes, Tom, I agree. Thank you.
We then go to another Tom. This one's spelled with an H.
Thom. Thom.
Yeah, maybe it's the same letter. I guess it's the same letter.
Wait, he sent the letter twice with his name spelled two different ways?
No. Yeah, no, I think it came in. I apologize.
Sorry. What?
Well, don't worry. I'll explain it during the break. It's not. It's just it's just a quirk. It was my fault.
No,
Everything is fine.
nothing's your fault.
That's
You're
not
ruining
true.
the show. We're trying to make it great.
Let's see. I think we need Democrats and Republicans to start promoting adult conversations around politics and how to converse respectfully with each other and explore our differences in respectful, intelligent dialogue. Most of all, I'd like to see them promote America as a home for many different people and viewpoints and not turn everyone against each other. Well, if you have one candidate who has made an entire career out of doing the opposite, and oh, by the way, in the process became the 45th president of the United States, that's difficult to turn, right?
Oh yeah, because his people loved it. His people, he gave. I mean, look, the rise in anti-Semitism, the overt racism that we're living with now, the homophobia, the transphobia. This all dates back to him coming down that golden escalator.
First thing he said.
Right? You know, they're trash. They're sending their
criminals.
worst people, criminals from Mexico. It gave license to all of this stuff.
Yep.
This 4 years before that, the Klan was almost bankrupt because of what the U.S. Department of Justice was doing to them. You know, I read a poll recently saying that support for LGBTQ rights is going down, and that the groomer, sexual pedophile messaging is working
Jesus.
within the Republicans, and it's working, and it's just astounding to me that this is what we have to deal with now. I thought we were done with that. I really did, but the answer to
And
that
hatred
is no.
of migrants and immigrants is
Right.
appalling, including even locally.
Yep.
We have a local supervisor who was on Fox.
Mine.
Yeah.
Well, and
mine
also
too.
women,
Crummy.
unless
Oh,
if those
God, I
women,
hate that.
and
Yes,
women,
and
unless if women
Yeah.
agree with
Right.
them.
Right.
Yep.
Right? If they agree with them, then they're perfect. If they
Right.
don't, then
Then
they're horrible,
shrews.
terrible, nasty. Yes.
Those of us who, try to keep family out of it, you just don't talk about politics, it still comes up. I had a relative in the house, and we're talking about how, the pool is all ready and the gazebo's all set up and the weather's been terrible, haven't used it one day. And suddenly, out of the blue, it's like, well, maybe you could set it aside for all those migrants flooding in. What?
Wow.
What?
Oh.
Wow.
Wow.
I was
Well,
stunned.
That turned
Out of nowhere.
Yeah. Well, we're going to take a break. When we come back, we'll let you sort of process that. We'll take a break. When we come back, we welcome you and your letters, panel at WAMC.org. We'll talk about many other subjects. Libby Post, Jennifer Burns, and Rosemary Armao. We'll be back right after this. Good morning. Welcome back to the Roundtable and to our panel discussion. I'm Joe Donahue. Libby Post is here, Jennifer Burns, and Rosemary Armao. We welcome your letters, panel at WAMC.org, panel at WAMC.org, and we welcome you with your thoughts. We're talking about a whole range of things, and we will continue to do that over the next 40 minutes or so. All right, let's go to that very. There are other letters about some of the other subjects, and I'll get to those. I'll get to those later on. I'll push those for a bit because I want to get to some of the other topics that we have before us, including this one. There is a new Border Patrol chief. Biden has named a new Border Patrol chief. A new Border Patrol chief is what I was trying to say, as immigration policies draw scrutiny. The new person is Jason Owens, and has been the leader of the Del Rio division in Texas, one of the busiest areas for illegal crossings in the past few years. President Biden named the Border Patrol chief on Friday as U.S. immigration policies have come under renewed scrutiny following the end of Title 42, a pandemic-era restriction that allowed the authorities to expel most immigrants for more than 3 years. Owens will succeed Raul Ortiz, who is set to retire at the end of the month after serving 32 years in the Border Patrol. God bless him for 32 years in that job. Mr. Owens takes over at a time when illegal crossings have decreased, although the numbers have gone down in the weeks since Title 42 was lifted. In May, officials expect the number of crossings to rise again this summer as thousands of migrants make their way through South and Central America with plans to go to the United States.
Okay, which Sarah were here to address
Yes.
it. She would have something to say. I would like to see the United States and the administration spend a little more time on setting up sanitary, safe living conditions for migrants coming in seeking asylum, which is legal and allowable and actually kind of noble, rather than spending time on policing. Of course, this is an appointment. I don't know the guy. That whole Border Patrol is the union is strongly pro-Trump, scary. And Biden hasn't done a good job on this either. His administration is the one that was caught sending men on horsebacks after migrants who were trying to cross into the border or into the United States, and it looked like they were using their horses' reins as whips. You remember that controversy? So this is not a stellar police force. And weren't Border Patrol people part of the Trump forces in Washington when he was storming against Black Lives Matter? It just has a bad reputation. Okay, that's it. It was just a general anti-Border Patrol rap, and they have a new guy. I hope he does better. But from the looks at me, he looks sort of like a skinhead. I'm sorry, you're not supposed to talk about. You're not supposed to talk about appearances. But did you see him? Did you see him?
I did, but I didn't immediately think skinhead.
What did you think?
What?
Did you think, oh, he looks like a liberal and compassionate person? Did you think that?
Well, maybe not that, but I don't know.
I think a woman should be in charge of the Border Patrol. I'd like to see Sarah head of the Border Patrol.
Sarah Rogerson, yes. Who was supposed to be with us today and then was ill, and that's how you got your gig.
And that's
Jennifer.
why you're here.
I second the need for Sarah and Sienna.
Yeah, I
Right.
think Sienna, too. I agree.
Yes, good point.
Okay, well, they're not here, so what do y'all got?
You know, it's like it's another change in the administration, which is stuff that happens all the time. You know, things change. People get new jobs.
32
people,
years, God.
Yeah, people retire.
Maybe it'll be new ideas.
Yeah, hopefully this guy will do a
Compassion,
decent
that'd be a
job.
good idea.
Right. Hopefully he'll do a good job. But, you know, it's like we can all sit here and crank about it, but we have no idea what that job entails. You know?
Well, and
Sarah and Sienna might. But
And I think also, you know, one of the things I was trying to find information on, it was just about him in general, right? You know, why is he the man? We've gotten an announcement that he's going to be the guy, but not really a why, right? It's sort of a detail of this man was there for 33 years. Now he's going to be in charge. He was in Texas before. Okay, but why him? Right? Why out of all the other people that may be there, and I don't know who any of them are, but why him?
Yeah, the article that we read basically emphasized that he's overseen a huge surge over the border in his area before. Not really.
Not any detail of he was doing something new and inventive, or he was cracking down, or, you know. And I think the other part of this is, as you brought up, Rosemary, the union. Right,
Yeah,
Biden's
scary.
talking. Yeah, the union is scary there and is very pro-Trump, and from what I read, and I think Joe Biden's push to be the most pro-union president in the United States means he really needs to start to figure out a way to have a relationship with this union.
If you remember when we were talking about some of the Trump border policies, like separating children, we asked the question over and over again, how could Border Patrol people do this? Yes, the policy came from Washington, but they were the ones pulling babies out of their mother's arms. So that's who's in this Border Patrol. I'm deeply suspicious of the Border Patrol.
Yeah.
Libby, anything to
I don't have much to add to this one.
Okay. We go to Gene. The reason Trump has 35% of the public behind him is misinformation, yet we do nothing. We could demand broadcasters self-label so they can't claim to be news, on-air, and entertainment in court, like Tucker Carlson has done. We can demand retractions be broadcasted on the shows where errors are made. We can rewrite the fairness doctrine for the current media landscape. We can fund local news and break up media monopolies like Sinclair. There is a war on truth, and our side isn't fighting. That's an interesting letter because it's all aimed at the media.
Yeah, I always hate when the media gets blamed for this. Yeah, write all those laws up and see if you can get them through that Congress. Republicans. We can't even get pro-contraceptive legislation through our Senate right now, so good luck with that.
Libby is being too optimistic. Sorry.
Okay.
I didn't write it, Libby.
Paula Joe writes that Biden will not bring in the necessary independents or swing voters if they're using initials, and I don't know. Anyway, I guess if Trump is the nominee, it scares me that this time, with all of the corrupt state legislators, he may prevail. Biden needs to step aside. All right. Then we go to John, and the subject heading of this letter is Angst over Biden. Really? We're 17 months away from Election Day, and this is what we're worried about? I think we have other more important problems and issues to deal with now. What a stupid country. By the way, did you see the laws Serbia passed after just 2 mass shootings? So I don't know exactly what he's taking us to task
Gun
for.
control.
Yep.
No, but of saying that we're discussing, is it the election? Is that?
Yeah, we're talking about an election that's so far away, and we had another mass shooting.
Right.
Got it.
Which is also on the agenda to be discussed today.
Well,
So
maybe
you
we'll
could
do
tell
it
them that.
next.
Maybe we
Yeah.
better to appease this guy.
No, honest, we were going to talk about it. Seriously. All right. We welcome your letters, panel at WAMC.org, panel at WAMC.org. So yes, this is a Juneteenth shooting at a Juneteenth celebration in Illinois. An unknown number of people used multiple weapons to open fire at the celebration in Willowbrook, Illinois. 23 shot, 1 fatally are the latest numbers. At least 1 person was killed, 22 others wounded in a shooting just after midnight Sunday at a large Juneteenth celebration in a strip mall parking lot in Willowbrook. It is southwest of Chicago. Deputies from the DuPage County Sheriff's Office heard gunfire around 12:30 and responded to an area where a large gathering of people was happening. This according to Eric Swanson, the deputy chief of the Sheriff's Department. He said that some victims took themselves to hospitals and others were transported by emergency medical workers. He declined to provide the victims' age and conditions. Chief Swanson said the motive behind the shooting was unclear. It was also not clear what types of firearms were used. No suspects were in custody. Juneteenth is an annual commemoration of the end of slavery in the United States. It has been celebrated by African Americans since the late 1800s and became a federal holiday in 2021. Today is Juneteenth, the celebrated day, federal holiday. The celebration in Willowbrook began around 6 p.m. on Saturday near an apartment complex. The sheriff's office said in a statement on Sunday afternoon it was unclear if the event was organized or sanctioned by nearby businesses, which could not be reached for comment. Some police officers were monitoring the event when they received a call about a fight nearby at about 12:25 a.m. The statement said the officers were heading to the fight when they heard gunshots and then returned to the celebration. I guess I'm going to ask a question, which I understand is could be considered to be mean, but why don't we know more? 48 hours after.
No, I have that question too.
I mean, this happened late Saturday, early Sunday morning, and we still don't know
who.
We don't know who. We don't know the type of weapons. We don't know the nature of the injuries. We don't know. There's so much we don't know. There's a time frame, and I understand these things are hard to piece together. But it seems sometimes I wonder, and Rosemary, you can tell us about this, of for police agencies that they're controlling the information. So when does it behoove them to stay shut, and as opposed to telling everything as to what's going on? There's
a couple of things here. That's part of it. Police agencies want to keep everything secret until they have it all put together. And the second thing is this happened on a weekend, which means there's skeletal staffs on both all the news organizations and probably the police stations, although if you have a giant celebration, it's a pretty big celebration. And it was very late at night. I mean, Juneteenth
and they
is
had
like
police
4th.
on the presence.
Yeah,
They had police
yeah.
presence there.
Yeah, but Juneteenth is usually like a 4th of July celebration. It's barbecues and cookouts during the day. So I was surprised at the timing of it, too. So late at night, skeletal staffs, that's part of it. But to not even know how many shooters there might have been, they must know that. They must have some information on that. So they're just holding back the information. And they also should have expected this. We have all kinds of mass shootings right now. This is racially oriented in an area outside of Chicago where there's race problems. They should have been way prepared for this.
And gun problems.
And gun problems, absolutely.
Right.
Yeah.
And this is in a residential neighborhood, so the pictures that you're seeing are bullet holes in people's closets and in their living rooms and of their television
awful.
sets busted up.
It's almost like a shootout took place, really. And I think for me the question is, one, why aren't we hearing more about it on a scroll? Because even though it happened over the weekend, we've seen other things happen over the weekend, and the scroll is just running on Sunday, on Monday. It's on every single show. And so, I think that's very, very concerning. But also, it's kind of like crickets when it comes to people who were attending posting different information, too. Usually we start to see more seep out through Facebook, right? The media will grab a hold of that.
Yeah.
And that's not here either. And what I found interesting in the article that we read from the Times was that there was the line in there about it was questionable if the local businesses approved of this.
Approved of the celebration.
Yes.
Because it was in a strip mall, which means
In
on
a
their
strip mall
property.
parking lot.
Yeah, in the
Right.
parking lot.
So there's also this other element there where, either it implies that the people who were throwing the Juneteenth party were already doing something criminal, and so therefore they were inspiring criminal behavior to begin with, right? That one sentence. And I know Rosemary's looking at me like that's a reach. When you weigh
could be right. I
the
had
way
not read that.
race and dog whistles work,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
That they weren't
Right.
supposed to be there
Yeah.
anyway, and this is part of the reason they're not supposed to be there, and they were there anyway and caused all this. So that racial element there. But we don't know who the shooters are.
Right. I guess we don't know if the shooters were people who were at the celebration, and like you say, it was like two rival groups or
Right.
something. We don't know any of that.
Or somebody showed up because they didn't want the celebration to be
Right.
going on, or they just saw it as a crabs in a barrel, and this is the opportunity
Right.
to target these people. Yeah.
Right. We don't know if this was black on black, white on black. We have no idea.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And it is strange that that after all of this time, they don't have any suspects, they don't have any leads, they don't have anything.
Especially, this is an area that probably has a lot of cameras.
Yeah. Right.
You would think.
Right.
Yeah, because they're all
Yeah.
stores, absolutely.
Right.
And there's plenty of, I watch, the cop shows, and there seems to be cameras on every corner.
Mm-hmm.
That they are able to look at. So it's
Although this
it is
might,
strange.
again, be a media thing, because you're outside the main Chicago area.
No, it was just on CNN.
Yeah, but today's Monday, Libby.
Yeah.
So today we're talking about why we haven't had
but it was
information
on.
now.
But
over
it was
the weekend.
on national news last night. It was in the New York Times.
But okay, so they have cameras. The police are going to look at the cameras, and the media is going to ask for them. That all takes like a day.
Yeah.
So
I get it.
Maybe it'll start to come out today. I don't know. That's all I can think
Well,
of.
and the victims don't seem to be speaking out either.
Yeah, good point.
And there's no press conference. I didn't see a press conference by the police chief, which is, crisis communications 101. Get out ahead of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I believe there was, if I'd have to double check this. I believe there was one yesterday morning,
Was there?
Sunday morning. But again,
I stand
they didn't
corrected.
have
No
any,
information.
there was no information, no details that they were going to, and I don't believe there's been a follow-up one. And I think obviously when you talk about, we immediately think that it is somewhat racially motivated because it's a Juneteenth celebration, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
of
and
course.
that's what brings us our minds to that particular place. So it seems like it's the question we should be asking. All right, let's go to a couple of letters, and then we'll move on from here. Let's see. Today's panel, especially Rosemary, do any of you consider the looming debacle of a televised debate between Trump and Biden, and how Biden can best design and manage declining such an event. Well, the Republicans have already said they're not going to do it. So.
Yeah, I don't see too many debates. I'll be surprised if Trump takes on his fellow Republican rivals in a debate.
Right. You know, the Republicans have demonized the League of Women Voters.
I know, crazy.
It's insane. You know, but they have as a, you know, left-wing Marxist, socialist, whatever. I mean, you know, so...
That's because they're embracing the Susan B. Anthony group.
Right, right. But also, I mean, the League of Women Voters does come out on issues and they're pro-choice and all that sort of stuff. But
part of me thinks that
absurd.
Debates are...
They're not
They
debates.
don't work anymore. Trump has turned them, like everything
It's a
else, he's
circus.
just polluted it. He's turned it into a circus. Exactly right.
And they're not debates. I mean, they're
They're
not
not.
really debates.
They're set up like presentations. It's
Yeah.
ridiculous.
Tricia says the quote-unquote problem with Biden and the Democrats is not the platform, policies, or accomplishments. It's the people receiving the message and their apparent inability to value and appreciate his work toward equality and justice for all. Rather than being disappointed in how Biden presents his administration's accomplishments, policies, and plans, I'm frustrated by the inability of the general public to appreciate the work being done on their behalf. Then we go to Marjorie. Good morning, panel. I wonder if gun-loving politicians would feel differently were it their kids or family or dear friends who were gunned down. If it doesn't hit closer to home, ... what will it take to bring sense?
Give it up. Scalise got shot himself and didn't change one iota of his resistance to gun regulation. Shot himself.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, he didn't shoot himself.
No,
No,
but
he
he
was
was
shot.
a victim
shot
of a shooting.
himself.
Yes.
And also, we're getting to that point now, sadly, tragically, that there are many of us, and everyone in this room, I think, has we know someone who has been whose family or has been a victim of some sort of mass shooting. I mean that is. And that's only going to increase as this goes on. So I think if that doesn't change things and move people to become more responsive to it, I don't know what does. I really don't. And the fact even that you have, I mean, you see this in Tennessee with, I mean, that's just the most... The recent example where you have a school shooting and you have you have this tragedy that takes place. Young children were murdered, and the people who speak out about it are shut up. And then you say, well, we're going to instead do the work of the people of Tennessee, and we're going to pass anti-trans education laws.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
Right, that's what's more important.
That's where we are.
Yeah.
Wanda Sykes.
Yeah.
She said it best.
Well, drag queens do not kill children. Guns do.
People do not walk into schools with banned books and kill children.
That's right. And no book ever killed a kid.
Did the House, did they ever vote to remove the metal detectors and allow guns into?
Oh, the law.
Yeah, did they?
That was the first thing they did when Kevin
And so
McCarthy
it is
came in.
approved, right?
Right.
What, that they're allowed to bring guns onto the floor?
Yes. That's because
that was a
that
Pelosi regulation. So
Oh,
that's
my
gone.
God. So
because
Lauren Boebert and Marjorie Taylor Greene can bring their guns to...
They can.
any of them can. And
God bless America.
that right there may be. It's sad. It's paining me to say this, but if guns are wielded on the House floor and someone is threatened or shot there, that might be the turning point, because we want it to be that we change laws to protect children, but it may be more about protecting the image of America.
Really wish that were true. January 6th,
I know,
we had
I
every
know.
congressperson in
I know,
the
but
whole
we've
building
seen
threatened and nothing happened.
Historically when it happens on the House floor in different ways. When other elements of society have also been happening at the same time, right? There's a momentum growing in a lot of different places, and it's kind of the straw that broke the camel's back. I hope that doesn't happen, but it could be there.
All right, let's take a break. When we come back, we'll come back for our last round with our panel. We welcome your letters, panel@wamc.org, panel@wamc.org. Libby Post is here, Jennifer Burns, and Rosemary Armao. We'll continue and come back to new topics as we finish up our time. Got about 15 minutes when we come back. We'll be returning right after this news.
But every time I'm close, you move, and I'm just left with the truth.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome back to the Roundtable and to our panel discussion this morning. Libby Post, Jennifer Burns, and Rosemary Armao. I'm Joe Donahue, and we welcome you and your letters, panel@wamc.org. A year after Dobbs, advocates push in the states for a right to birth control. This, hard to believe it's been a year, and yet, 1 year after Justice Clarence Thomas said the Supreme Court should reconsider whether the Constitution affords Americans a right to birth control, Democrats and reproductive rights advocates are laying the groundwork for state-by-state battles over access to contraception, an issue they hope to turn against Republicans in 2024. The justices' arguments in Dobbs versus Jackson Women's Health Organization, the case that overturned Roe v. Wade, and the right to abortion galvanized the reproductive rights movement. House Democrats, joined by 8 Republicans, promptly passed legislation that would have created a national right to contraception. Republicans blocked a companion bill in the Senate. Now, reproductive rights advocates are pressing their case in the states. Even before Dobbs, some states had taken steps to protect the right to contraception by either statute or constitutional amendment. 13 states in the District of Columbia currently have such protections, according to a health policy research organization, KFF. This month, the movement seemed on the cusp of victory in Nevada, where the Democratic-controlled legislature passed a bill with support from a handful of Republicans, but would have guaranteed a right to contraception. But on Friday, the governor, Joe Lombardo, a Republican, quietly vetoed the measure. Proponents of codifying such a right saw Nevada as a test case. On Wednesday night, it's going to be up to Republicans to choose whether they want to protect the right to contraception, according to Senator Ed Markey, Democrat of Massachusetts, and the sponsor of the failed Senate bill, said in an interview before the governor's veto. Mr. Markey called the Dobbs decision a preview of coming atrocities. Libby?
Well, I mean, I'm glad I live in New York. We have a contraception protection here. They passed the bill, I think 2019, along with the Reproductive Health Act. They passed the Contraception Protection Act. The Republicans are starting to recognize that the Dobbs decision may cost them at the voting booth. And if they go after contraception, they will lose, I would say 80% of the women's vote in this country. Last night we're watching TV and there's an ad for Viagra. So, we can make sure that men can do their thing, but the result of that might be a pregnancy and women can't do what they need to do. And so, access to contraception is even, older than Roe. It's from 1965, the Griswold decision. There's a part of me that wants this Supreme Court to start questioning marriage equality as well, because it talks about Ginny Thomas's and Clarence Thomas's marriage. Because when he says, well, I don't know about marriage equality, well, then it's your marriage too. Because it took the Loving case in the Supreme Court to say that interracial marriage was legal in the United States. I don't think they'll overturn that. I don't think we'll get that far. But this contraception issue could be the straw that breaks the women's voters' backs in the United States.
I think the other thing is that when we think about contraception, this is so with Republicans linked into abortion. But
right.
Birth control isn't
So that
always
you-
about not getting pregnant. Sometimes it's for other health issues of regulating cycles,
right.
of hormonal treatments, of all kinds of other things that women need, whether they're sexually active or not.
Don't expect to see Republicans saying that in the Catholic Church.
Oh,
It's
no.
not that. Catholic Church says many of the methods of birth control actually are like early abortions.
I understand they say that, but that doesn't mean that's why all women are using them.
Well,
That's
it's
right.
the same with the drug now that they're trying to control through the FDA
right.
to stop it. It does promote abortions, but it also helps with miscarriages and other kinds of treatments, and that has been swept under the rug. And as for protections, Libby, if there's a national law about contraception, then New York is not protected or any of the other
I know
13
that.
states.
I know.
The same as abortion.
Right.
And I am stunned by how medieval this is.
Mm-hmm.
Around the world, contraception has proved the way to reduce poverty, to promote women, to promote family health, because women, once they're freed from having endless babies, do other things
Right.
to help
It's
the economy and their families.
It's the issue about promoting
horrible.
women.
Yeah,
They want us to be barefoot and pregnant.
it is medieval.
Well, I mean, I think the other thing is it's all about the woman's body, right? It's not condoms, right? They're not talking about getting rid of condoms.
No, they're talking about the pill.
Right. And
Are they? Because contraception could be condoms.
Yeah,
that's what I'm saying.
yeah.
But it's not about condoms at all. We don't hear that involved. It's about everything that's linked to Planned Parenthood and where abortions happen, and this
How would
birth
they write the
control
law,
link.
though? You can't do contraception without including condoms.
Medical contraception. And condoms are not medical.
I think you need a prescription for condoms.
Well,
Don't you, Libby? I think we should
No,
make that
you
a
can
law.
get. Yes, I think you should. But right now you can
a
get them over
doctor's
the counter.
appointment and an exam, and then
Right.
maybe you can get a prescription.
Right.
Right, but that's, I mean, but think about it, right? That's
Right. But
That's part of the conversation right.
right.
there, right? It's all dedicated to a woman's health, but also controlling her health and controlling her body.
Right.
And it doesn't. There's nothing that is here that talks about men.
Oh no,
At all.
because we want them to have Viagra and Cialis so that they can
Because men have
do
Don't
things-
get condoms if
right,
they
so that
choose
they can you choose to use or not use a condom. I mean, it's just absurd. And
I would also like to point out that Republicans are saying, well, we don't really need these laws because there's nobody going after contraception. Just that one little line, and the Justice Clarence Thomas is one of the 9 people who get to decide these things, says it. But that's not very much. Nobody's going after, we don't need these laws. I remember a time not so long ago when they were saying that about abortion, too. That nobody was
right.
going after. It's established rule. We have learned. So...
But we've seen a few of the article that we read talked about 3 Republican governors, right, who've passed legislation. Sarah Huckabee Sanders, which shocked me, but she, right, I mean, I wouldn't have expected it from her,
right.
But she did. She signed legislation so that
understands.
contraception are there, right,
Right.
for women.
Right.
And I think there are ways to message this where it's not about. If you want to get the independents or you want to get the middle ground voters, I think it has to be more about, this is not about abortion. This is not about the pregnancy at all. It's about women's
Controlling
health
your
and
life.
controlling
Yeah.
a
Right.
menstrual cycle or getting hormonal treatment
Right.
or all of these other things that women just generally need for good health.
right.
I agree, but I mean, to Libby's point, I don't know that they care about that, right?
No,
I
they
mean,
don't. They don't. They just want us to be barefoot and pregnant. I hate to keep saying this, but they don't want women to be corporate leaders. They don't want women to be successful. They don't want us to be teachers. Oh, well, maybe that's all they want us to do and be secretaries. But they don't want us to be leaders. They don't want us to be fully functioning members of society. They want to go back to the 50s and the 40s. Right. And so
Power
and then
positions,
right.
right?
And contraception was the way for women to control at that time their own destiny to some degree. And you know, it's like, and you're absolutely right about the medical part. My mother had an IUD because if she had gotten pregnant again, it would have killed her. Right. It's just that simple. It would have killed her.
Well, right, and I think this gets to the point where to what both Rosemary was saying in connection with what Jennifer was saying. I mean, I think there is a medieval idea to this of you have a cure for a a problem of whether it be fibroids or endometriosis
Yes.
or God forbid a cancer, and that will help. But the minute it is also considered to be a contraceptive, then the red flag goes up, and you will have difficulty getting access to it.
I mean, one of the most appalling series of reportage that's going on now is women who suffer fetal abnormalities or miscarriages, and they are being denied treatment by doctors and healthcare professionals afraid of being prosecuted for a violation.
go to a
Yes,
Catholic
and it's
hospital.
causing cestus and all
torturing.
kinds of things,
Right.
threatening their
It's
lives
cruel
when
and
their
unfair. But go
babies
to
are no
any
longer viable and have passed away.
Right. Go to any Catholic hospital. They will make you carry that fetus to term.
Yeah.
I mean, it is absolutely disgusting.
Well,
and
I've
that's what
seen it
happens.
in hospitals that aren't Catholic too,
Well,
and also
We're seeing it in this area, though, too, to interrupt Joe, that Catholic-run hospitals are shutting down neonatal centers. They
That's
don't
right.
even want the pregnant
no,
women
they
there.
don't even want. They
They don't want to deal with the issues
Right.
at
But,
all.
but to the point of what you were saying of the of what is happening of torture. In many of these cases, and I've witnessed this with my own eyes, the woman is hemorrhaging.
Right.
There is blood coming. It is a horrible thing, and there's a shot that can make that go away, and they ain't doing it unless you have to do this and you have to do that, and meanwhile
The woman's
you're
dying.
watching
Right. Yeah.
I to me, the worst cases are women who know they have a child who's born, for example, with no skull. It will not live. You carry it for 9 months, and then you watch it die over the next few hours after birth. How is that
It's
even
inhumane.
humane, much
It's
less
inhumane.
American? Oh, my
Right.
God.
And you go to a Catholic hospital, or your doctor is affiliated with a Catholic hospital. Like now, we've got two groups here. We've got Albany Med and their physicians, and we've got St. Peter's Healthcare. And the folks that are at St. Peter's Healthcare can't even prescribe contraception. I mean, it's just absolutely absurd.
So tell me this: why is there
Maybe
not
just about a
corrective
minute.
legislation? Why can't we just?
I know.
I
really wish
think the
we
whole
did.
abortion, like the laws are ridiculous. But if they're in place, why can't they come out with laws saying this is not intended to take care of fetal or to affect women with fetal abnormalities or dying? from
Because it's all thrown into
miscarriages?
the exceptions, right?
Right.
And they
Right.
won't pen those out. They won't clearly identify what those exceptions
so
are.
They
How
would
is
see
that-
it as a
how
way
is
you
that
can get
horrible?
around it.
A loophole.
Yeah.
I mean, we need some loopholes here.